Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to week 6 in the NFL. It's my picks of the week. We already have the Thursday game in the books. I had Washington in both the spread and in Pickem. Basically, a Pickem in the spread, so pretty much that. 6-10 against the spread last week, so it was my first week in the spread that I went below 500. 48-32 on the season for the spread, and last week in Pickem, again, a pretty bad week all around. 8-8 in Pickem, which on Pickem scoring an 8, not good. 49-30-1 now on the season. In this video, I just go over each game. I do a Pickem. I might mention a little bit of spreads in that, but if you want to see my spread picks when it's time to go live, I do tweet them out every Sunday morning, so you can follow along on that. Otherwise, guys, I'm just going to jump into it, do a little quick video here, and we're going to start with the early games, the 10 a.m. games here on the West Coast. We've got the Ravens and the New York Giants coming back off a huge win against Green Bay Packers last week. Huge come from behind over in London. Honestly, I'm shocked at how that game went, but this one is going to be pretty simple pick for me. The Baltimore Ravens showed to me Sunday night, even though Lamar might not have had his best game of the season, the defense stepped up against Joe Burrow, and the Bengals were a big win. The Giants are 6-point underdogs coming back here. I think Giants quite possibly one of the worst 4-1 teams we've seen in a while, but the Giants, Barkley and them have shown that they're capable of at least hanging here, and we're going to see them, I think, on the borderline of a playoff matchup here. But overall, I think the AFC is a stronger conference. The Ravens are the stronger team. I expect them to kind of be the first real test for the Giants. It's going to be interesting how the Giants match up against the offense of the Baltimore Ravens and how they're going to adjust to Lamar Jackson and stuff like that. But I think the Ravens are going to walk away with this one. Next up, Bengals at the Saints, and the Saints have continued to kind of surprise me. Kind of about a 500 team. They had a big win last week against the Seahawks. The Bengals are touched on, had that devastating loss against the Ravens. So the Bengals are kind of sitting in last place in their division with a 2-3 record. They've had a pretty tough schedule along the way, but as a first place team last year, that's going to be the norm. And if you're going to be a top team in the NFL, you're going to have a tough schedule each and every year. I do have the Bengals winning this one on the road. I just think the offense is going to have a little bit more to say against the Saints defense than vice versa. A little bit of concern still about the Bengals offensive line and whether they're going to be able to handle this Saints. Joe Burrow will say it, and you've heard him probably say it before. He doesn't really care if sacks are an overrated part of the game. He thinks getting sacks not a big deal, especially on third down. Doesn't make a difference. But I do think the Bengals are going to really have to turn their season here because they could have the 0-2 curse that I talked about in week 3 if they don't turn it around here. Next up, we have my Miami Dolphins hosting the Minnesota Vikings. And as much as I want to pick my Dolphins to win this one, I just think the Vikings have the upper hand. A lot of it has to do with Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the backup. So we're going to see Thompson getting his start at Miami, his first career start. At least he had the whole week to prepare for this one, but I don't think that's going to mean a lot. Skylar Thompson did not look good coming in early in that game last week. A lot of turnovers, a lot of concern there. He does have the weapons, and maybe having a whole week practice as the number one might make a difference, but the 4-1 Vikings, they've been rolling, and they might have had a tight couple wins against some weaker teams with the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears the past couple of weeks. This maybe could be a true test here. We do see that the Vikings are a 3-point favorite on the road. So if they were at home, they'd be, 6.5 point favorites. Maybe a little bit of concern there when you're looking at the spread, but I think overall it's going to be tough for the Dolphins to come out with this one, given their quarterback situation. Next up, we've got Packers versus the Jets. And when we're talking pick 'em here, I'm just got to pick the Green Bay Packers. The spread is 7.5 points for the Packers. So if you're talking spread, it's going to be a lot of a different story. You're going to see a lot of the money coming in on the Jets over a touchdown dog. The Jets have shown that they're capable of some damage. They've put up 40 points against the Dolphins last week, and Breece Hall had such a week that rookie running back is really going to make a name for himself, and the Jets' young players are really starting to show. Like, this is not the same Jets team that we're used to in the past couple of years, so do not discount them. an upset is not out of the question. Definitely when it comes to the Jets I think are starting to surprise most people. Soon it's not going to be a surprise when it's super close. But on the other side, Aaron Rodgers and them coming back from London, they had a first half lead last week that was pretty massive, and I think most people watching that game would have expected them to just carry that one out. But their offense just fell apart. So that's like back-to-back weeks that Aaron Rodgers and the offense just have not been able to put a full game together. And I think they're going to really try to do that. A more complete game from the Packers is going to come out in this one. 7.5 points might be tough, but I do expect the Packers to win at home here after the long trip over from London. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns hosting the New England Patriots. Patriots completely blanked the Detroit Lions last week, and I'll have to admit that one really caught me off guard. I can't recall the name of their quarterback right off the top of my head. I think last week I said Hoyer, but Hoyer wasn't starting. It was the other guy, and off the top of my head I can't remember it. But overall, I do think the Browns are going to be able to win this one. The spread actually opened 3.5 points and has come down. When Patriots making it, I think it's like 2.5 now. A lot of people giving a lot of credit to this Patriots defense. It's been very good so far this season, and they've managed to keep the games close. And at the most part, we saw them against Green Bay a couple weeks ago. Could have won that one. Last week, they demolished the Lions, and they kept it really close against the Dolphins early on in the year, too. Don't count this one. This one's going to be maybe one of the best matchups of the week. Two strongly defensive teams. We're going to see a lot of running the football, I think, from the Browns here. And I expect them to have a ball possession game where that's kind of the Patriots' bread and butter for the most part. So it's going to be an interesting low-scoring game, I suspect. Going to be tight, but I do have the Browns winning this one. Next up, 49ers continue their NFC South road trip against the Atlanta Falcons, and I think they're like 5.5 point favorites. And I just expect them to kind of keep on rolling here. The Falcons not expected to be a strong team throughout the year, and 49ers now on top of the NFC West. Maybe not a lot of people predicted it, but they've been rolling. They had that huge win against the Rams 2 weeks ago. They pretty much lights out against the Panthers last week, and I expect their defense to really be able to hold in Mariota and the Falcons offense while their defense keeps them off the field for the most part. Might be a little bit closer. Falcons seem to be one of those teams that backdoor cover last week, and they've covered the spread, I think, most weeks, honestly. If you've been betting Falcons spread, you've been doing pretty well. I think this is another one of those spots that a lot of people and a lot of the public is going to be heavy on San Fran, just based on their past few performances. Yeah, I think that in a pick'em style, it's going to win for sure. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And not much to say here. This is the biggest spread of the week, 9.5 points right now for the Buccaneers. And we got Pickett again getting the start for the Steelers. And I feel bad for the guy. Back-to-back weeks. His first 2 weeks in the NFL, he gets the Bills and the Buccaneers. 2 top 4 teams last year, both making their conference championships. And what can you say? He's got to cut out for him some top defenses for him. I don't see him being able to win this game. He might be able to cover the spread. We're seeing what he's capable of and some top defenses. So finally, when he gets a chance, maybe a couple weeks down the road against some weaker defense, we might see him really pop off. But at the end of the day, the Steelers don't have a whole lot of talent, and this guy does give them the best chance of the win over Trubisky. So it's no surprise that he's going to be the future, at least for the next year, 2 years, whatever. Next up, Jaguars coming into Indy. So these two teams are now going to play their second game of the season already. Jaguars really blanked the Colts early in the season. What was it, 28-3, 28 was it even nothing? I can't remember the score, but I do remember the Jags blowing it out. The Jags at home have held the Colts pretty at bay, but this is a different story. We're at Indy. Indy's starting to maybe get a little bit of momentum here. They beat the Chiefs, and they had that ugly win on Thursday last week. And it's going to be a close one here. Jaguars had that ugly loss against the Texans last week. So both these teams coming off these tight, slow-scoring games. Expect to see a little bit of it open up here. I think the Colts running back situation, we're going to see Hines back in there, coming back from that concussion protocol. There is word that Taylor very well could start. He was in limited practice, but He's dealing with an ankle, so we might see a little mix between Hines and Taylor. If Taylor does suit up, I think with having those running backs back this game might help the Colts a little bit here. And I do have them as the winner. I think this is their chance to keep on pace with the Titans. This division is going to be wild, though. And if the Colts lose here, I think this really could put a big damper on their season. But we still have lots of games to play. This division is likely going to be taken by an 8, maybe 9-win team. So these division games are going to be what matters. And right now the Colts have yet to win a game in the division, and this is their 4th division game. So a little concern there. If you go 0-3-1 in the division, your first 4, very unlikely in such a tight division that you're going to win it. Next up, Cardinals on the road against the Seahawks. Both these teams losing their starting running backs. And I'm going to have to go with the Cardinals on this one. On the road, it's a very tight spread, and I think I've been underestimating the Seahawks so far. Geno Smith holds one of the best passer ratings across the NFL right now in the PPR number. They're really touting him right now as well. He's just been able to throw bombs, and their wide receiving core has really helped him out. Rashad Penny out for the rest of the season. So we're going to see whether their new running back can step up. And same on the other side, the Cardinals are going to be with a new running back as their main guy. It's going to be interesting. The Seahawks, for me, the one concern is we haven't really seen them be able to stop an offense. The New Orleans Saints really crushed them last week, putting up basically 40. The Lions the week before putting up basically 40. Whether they won one of those, that's okay, but the Cardinals do sport a somewhat decent offense, so they're going to be able to try to keep them at bay. It's going to be interesting. I think on the road, Cardinals are going to win this one. Next up, we have the Panthers on the road and the Rams. And the Rams, they need this win so bad. I'm going to pick them to win. It's not just that they need it. They are the better team. Panthers have not looked good. Baker Mayfield out. We're going to see someone else coming in. I think it's PJ, I'm going to say Tuckett, but I don't know if that's right. It's PJ something, right? He's coming in, and whether or not he can do anything against his Rams defensive line is going to be another question. The Rams 2-3 on the season. I don't think anyone at the beginning of the year would have thought that they would start the season with a losing record after 5 games. They're only 1 game back in the division. This is a get-right spot for the Rams at home against a really struggling 1-4 Panthers team. I do not see any other way other than the Rams walking away with this one. The last afternoon game is going to probably be the best one on the slate. We have the Bills and the Chiefs, and we all remember how they ended and matched last year in that playoffs game. What a wild game that was, and the Bills had heartbreaking defeat. And they're, again, going to match up very well. Both these teams putting up massive numbers. So far, Kansas City does have more points for, but the Bills significantly have less points against. So it's tough to say if that really plays into it because it does come down to what the matchups have been. The Bills got to shut down Steelers last week. A little bit of help there. But overall, the Bills have had a very tough schedule. They probably had the toughest schedule out of the gate out of any team. On the other side, the Chiefs coming back off that big comeback win against the Raiders last week. A lot of people might have think that they should have lost that one, but they might have got a little lucky. This one's tough, and I don't know if I'm right here, but I am leaning Chiefs. Something in my gut is just telling me that the Chiefs are going to maintain their, I guess not dominance against the Bills, but maintain their winning ways against the Bills from the last week. I know the Bills have beaten them in the season a couple of times, actually, over the past number of years. These two teams match up so well. It's going to be a great football game. Right now, I'm kind of just leaning home field advantage as the tiebreaker because this one could go either way, and I got to make a pick. So we're going to stick with the household on that one. Next up, we got the Sunday Nighter Dallas Cowboys coming into the only undefeated team left in the NFL. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, 5-0. They are going to keep their winning ways against this Dallas Cowboys defense that's pretty much what's been holding them together. Cooper Rush just continuing. I think he's undefeated as a starter, which is completely wild. I know I've paid the price multiple times betting against the Dallas Cowboys over these last number of weeks, just assuming based on Cooper Rush they wouldn't be able to get it done. But their defense has just been amazing in keeping them 4-1. Like, honestly, if they win this game, they are going to be the division leaders as much as the Eagles are undefeated. The Cowboys would be 5-1. They'd be 5-1. They would win the tiebreak based on the match. But I am going with the Eagles. It's going to be a close one. I think that we could see whether or not Justin Hurts has what it takes to go up against a defense like this. I don't know if he's had one with the kind of pass rush that Dallas is going to bring at him. But I think overall, their Eagles defense is going to at least contain the Dallas offense. And I think that's going to be, at the end of the day, the biggest difference maker. And then that brings us to the last game of the week, Monday Night Football. The Broncos going into the Chargers. And this is a case of the Broncos. This is a must-win situation, in my opinion. Their season has not been going the way it was planned. Russell Wilson, a lot of concern there. There's been talk about a shoulder problem with him, whether he's going to even be able to throw the deep ball. They lost Devontae Williams early in the season. Their offense has been very bad. It's really come down to their defense keeping them in games. It's been close games. They had that rough loss against the Colts last week, and they barely squeaked out that win against San Fran the week before. This offense just has not been able to score in touchdowns. And I think with Herbert and the Chargers offense, they're just going to win this one. I think it's not even going to be that close. I think that the Chargers are going to win by double digits. And it's going to really show that Russell Wilson and that signing is not meant to be. I hope for Broncos fans, like I'm wrong, and that Wilson, this is going to be his coming out party. They've now had 5 weeks working together. There's not really much excuses left in the book whether to get it done. But I think overall, the second best team in this division is the Chargers, and they need to try to keep pace with the Chiefs. And if they win here and the Chiefs lose, they're going to be in it. Bye weeks, we got Titans, Texans, Lions, and Raiders. So that's what you got for your bye weeks. Yeah, and there you guys have it. Week 6 in the books there. Those are my picks. Again, if you want to see what I'm picking against the spread, you just follow me on Twitter for that. And guys, like, subscribe, join the community. There's some baseball playoffs going on today. There's hockey season just underway. If you have fantasy questions, want to just chat more about these sports that are going on, join the Discord community. That stuff's all below. We will hope to see you there, and stay tuned for that next video. We'll see you soon. Thanks.